guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're not new around here, you'll already know how much I love traveling, but that doesn't mean that it's always smooth sailing. Things can go wrong just like in everyday life. So in today's video I thought I would talk about some of the worst things that happened to me while I was traveling. So yeah, I hope you'll enjoy the video. And I'm just gonna go in a completely random order and start with the time when I had to be evacuated due to fire. I think I was about 15 when I went on holiday with my family and our family friends. We went to this Croatian island called Lastovo. It's not a very touristy island. We rented a couple of apartments in a house there, and one day while I was inside the apartment I hear people like screaming in front of the house, and I opened the window and my parents and our family friends were standing downstairs and screaming at me to like just grab the essentials and run out of the house because the island was on fire. I started freaking out. I was so afraid that I was gonna lose all my stuff. I started like throwing all my clothes into the luggage and like grabbing my cameras and my laptops, and I think I did end up running out with like a laptop in my hand. Yeah, what happened was our house was basically located at like the end of this peninsula, and on the other side of the bay, and like the other side wasn't that far away. It was just like connected with the bridge on, let's say, like the west side, and it wasn't like far away. You could literally like swim across, but that whole hill was on fire. You could see the flames, the smoke was insane, and we were told that we have to leave the peninsula because obviously if the fire spread on the other side we would have nowhere to go because we were staying at the end. The only thing like on the east was the ocean. We basically had to go to the car straight away and drive to the other side of the peninsula, where we were just standing and watching the island burn in flames. Fortunately, the fire didn't spread. I mean, it did spread, but thankfully it didn't spread to the other side of the peninsula, so our items, my precious clothes, were all fine. Anywho, that fire was pretty intense. It was pretty scary, and they also didn't have like the best equipment on the island to kind of put it down. So there was like airplanes flying and dropping down water. I think even my dad and the dad of, you know, the family we're traveling with, they actually went to like help put the fire out. They're not like firefighters, but yeah, they actually like went to help people to like pump the water or something. I don't know, it was crazy. Okay, so that was one story which was quite intense, but let's move to the other one, which is, I guess, funny. It's just funny. It was embarrassing to me, but now it is very funny. So I went on a school trip with my school, with my high school. We went to Italy, and when we're in Rimini, we're staying at this quite shitty hotel slash hostel, I guess you'd call it. It had like a hole on the ceiling, the sheets were all dirty, but the worst thing about it is that it didn't have a shower. It was just this like hose hanging from the wall, and you couldn't do much with it. So a friend of mine and I and some other people, we sneaked out of the hotel in the evening to, first of all, go check out the beach, which was right next to it. And another reason that we sneaked out was to just go check out if there's maybe a shower on the beach, because we were walking around Venice all day long and it was 40 degrees, it was boiling, and we're sweaty AF, so we needed a shower. So yeah, we ended up walking down to the beach, and the beach was closed. There was like this fence around it. Eventually we did find a spot that we could like just go under, I guess. And yeah, we went to the beach, took some photos, walked around, and then, you know, 15 minutes later we went back to the hotel. And on our way back, when we were like climbing under the fence, I hear this cracking noise, and I quickly realized that it was my trousers. So what happened was, when I like squatted to go under the fence, My pants basically ripped apart, and it was the most embarrassing thing, but also the most hilarious thing ever. And luckily I had a hoodie with me, so I took my hoodie off and wrapped it around my butt, because you know, I couldn't really walk back to the hotel with my butt hanging out. So that was one moment that I will never forget. It was so hilarious, and I was trying really hard to like hide it. I think only one of my friends knew about it, so I guess I knew how to play it cool back then. But if that happened to me now, I would be dying, and I would probably also vlog it. Moving on to the next moment. Let's do another embarrassing moment. I cannot believe I'm telling you this, but just keep in mind, I was, I think, 11 years old. So what happened was, that was the first time that I visited London with my mom, and we went to this, I think it was called Beef Eater dinner. It was basically a dinner in the style of how like dinners looked like when Henry VIII was on the throne. So it was all like played out. We had to like eat traditional food, or like semi-traditional food, and we had to like eat with hands, and we had to like dance and stuff like that. It was hilarious. Dinner was fine. After dinner is when things started going downhill for me. So we finished dinner at about midnight, and while we were walking to the tube, I told my mom that I really need to have to go to the toilet. Like, I really had to go pee. I couldn't hold it in anymore, but we couldn't find a toilet anywhere. And if you're in London, you would know that like there's no public toilets here really. You can only go to like a restaurant or a department store. Obviously at midnight everything was already closed. I generally have quite a strong bladder, and I can go without like having to go to the toilet for like 12 hours, to be honest. But at that moment I think I drank so much that I just couldn't hold it in anymore, and I wouldn't survive like the tube journey. I would basically pee in my pants. So my mom decided that I have to go pee on the streets of London. And luckily around the corner from the tube station we found this street that was obviously a construction site. So yeah, I went to have a pee there. Luckily, no one was around to see me, but oh my god, that experience scarred me, and now I'm like going to the toilet all the time. Like, if I travel and if I don't have to go to the toilet, I still go to the toilet. So embarrassing. I can't imagine this happening to me now, because I wouldn't do it. I would literally probably pee in my pants. Anyway, let's go to my last two travel experiences. The first one is a recent one. It happened to me last year, I think, when I went home for, not the holidays, but like in February, I think, to attend my sister's prom. So basically, long story short, or long story long, we'll see. Unfortunately, all the flights that go from London to Slovenia are very early morning flights at like 7 a.m, which means that you have to be at the airport at like 5 a.m. And if you're from London, you'll know that public transport is shit during the nighttime in London. And let me tell you, even if you can get the like nighttime bus, don't get it, because I've made that mistake too once, and I thought I wouldn't made it out alive, because there was a lot of drugged up men approaching me when I was waiting for like my transfer bus. It was the worst experience ever. Anywho, what I usually do when I have to catch an early morning flight is I go to the airport before like midnight, and then I spend the night at the airport. And what I normally do when I have to catch a plane from Luton, I usually go to the Victoria Coast Station at around 11 p.m. or midnight and take the bus to the airport. I've been doing that for, you know, the past 2 years. It was always pretty seamless, I guess. But the last time I did that, I came across a very shitty bus driver. He actually didn't allow me to go on the bus before 4 a.m. Why I wasn't allowed to do that, I still have no idea, because I had an open ticket and I could take literally any bus throughout the day. But yeah, he didn't let me on the bus because he said that, you know, my plane leaves at 7 a.m. so I can go on the bus at 4 a.m. and no earlier. So what happened was I had to wait outside in the cold for 4 hours from midnight until 4 a.m., so overnight, with lots of strange people around me. I was also lucky enough that on that day, the actual coach station where you can at least sit in the waiting room was closed as well. So I was standing outside for 4 hours. It was freezing cold. It was like a proper winter time. I had my Converse on, so you can imagine how cold I was standing there for 4 hours. I obviously ended up catching a cold. Yeah, and by the way, the bus was not full at all, so it wasn't a problem that the bus was full. Guess how many people went on the bus that can fit at least 50 people inside? 4. There was 4 people that he took to Luton Airport. Anywho, moving on to my last story of the day, which was one that was definitely the most anxious one out of the bunch, I guess, for me, because that literally destroyed me. And if it happened to me now, I don't think it would actually even be a big deal, but at that point it was. So if you've been watching my YouTube videos from the very beginning, you'll know that I went on a trip to the United States. I went to California. It was the first trip that I went to all by myself. I think I was 20 years old, and that whole trip was one big disaster. It's probably the only trip I actually regret taking, and I wish I could redo it with just going on my own or with other people, because it was a disaster by all means. But I'm actually not gonna talk about that trip specifically, but more about what happened on my way home. So I had a late evening flight, but I arrived to LAX in the morning, and then I had to wait all day long, so 12 hours for my flight. Obviously it was, the longest 12 hours ever because I didn't know what to do with myself. And as soon as the check-in opened, I went to, check in my luggage and all that jazz. And when I wanted to do that, the person behind the counter told me that my flight was 6 hours late. He told me that I'm basically gonna miss my connecting flight, and that he suggests me to stay in LA for extra 2 days, which again, if it happened to me now, I would be yeah, fine, pay for the hotel and I'll be here for the next 2 days, I don't care. But because my trip was so bad, I was there for almost 3 weeks already, and I had enough of it. So when that guy told me that I'm gonna have to stay there for extra 2 days, I was just done with it. I started crying. I wanted to go back to my family, and I was supposed to come home on my dad's birthday and see all my relatives and have a barbecue with them as well. So if I stayed in LA, I would miss that as well, and I just wasn't up for it at all. And I think that was the first time where I actually stood up for myself, because normally I'm quite shy. I don't like confrontations, but I was literally you have to find me a new flight. I'm not moving from here, find me a new flight. So I was waiting there for the next half an hour or an hour, and people all around me were bawling because their flights got cancelled as well. It was just such a big mess. So yeah, I got some happy news, and the guy actually found a new flight for me to London, and in London I had to change planes, and I think then I went with Lufthansa to Munich, and with Adria from Munich to Ljubljana. Yeah, the guy found me a flight and everything seemed alright. So I went to the British Airways counter. Oh my god, I almost forgot something. Before the guy actually told me that the flight is delayed, he told me that the second time I tried to check in, because the first time I tried to check in, he told me that my luggage was too heavy for less than a kilo, and I actually had to go buy a new suitcase to put some of the stuff from my original suitcase to the other suitcase, and then I obviously had to pay for an extra suitcase. So that was the first problem that happened. But anyways, then I went to the British Airways counter. I checked in for the flight, which was in half an hour, so I literally had no time to even go through security, so I was panicking big time. And then the guy also told me that my luggage will most likely not arrive to the destination. And he gave me like a whole bunch of like receipts or something that I had to take to every single check-in counter at every single airport that I had to make transfers, so in London and in Munich, to give them like a piece of paper so that they will, I guess, check in my luggage and try to get it to the final destination. And then my laptop died, my phone died, so I couldn't even be in touch with my family. And when I was on the actual flight from LA to London, I was literally shaking from stress. That never happened to me before. So then when I arrived to London, I had less than half an hour to change flights. And as soon as I landed, it said that the transfer takes 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Somehow though, I managed to make it. I don't even know how. I was running like a crazy person. I think at that point my flight was, like the flight from London to Munich was delayed as well. So I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it. I wasn't sure if I was gonna have to stay in London or, you know, if I was gonna have to stay in Munich for I think the next 4 days, because the next flight from Munich to Slovenia was in like 4 days. Somehow I made it to Munich. And the funniest thing was that as soon as we landed, the flight that I was supposed to be on originally also landed at the same time. So all this stress was pretty much for nothing because I would still make it with the delayed flight. Luckily, the flight from Munich to Ljubljana was delayed for a couple of hours as well, and I did catch the last flight, so I made it home in one piece. Unfortunately, my luggage didn't make it home, obviously, but I have to say that I was quite lucky because they found my luggage, and I actually had it delivered to my house the next morning. Oh, Jesus, I've been telling the last story for quite a while. I hope this video wasn't too random. If you would like me to do more travel like story times videos, let me know because I have a lot of stories to share from my travels. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more videos from me in the future. Have a nice day and I will talk to you soon.